Okay, I'm gonna give you guys a bit of insight on how this deck is meant to function. It seems pretty straightforward, but the main reason is because of how versatile this card is, right? This card and this card. This is usually played in pure as well, but it's only meant to facilitate Cherubini so you can get access to your Crystron. You can dump your Smiger and your Thystvern, right? You can dump these guys because then this searches your spell. And you can start your combos from there because eventually this will get access to your Sulfefnir, in which point you will end up dumping more names to get access to your Tristaros, okay? And the way you do that is by dumping your Sulfefnir. That's generally how it goes. You go this to this, to this, to this, to this, to summoning this, to dumping this, and whichever name you're missing. And then this will eventually summon Tristaros. And that's how you get your two tuners to get into your Alesk. That's generally how the sequence is meant to be going. But because there's another level 3 that Cherubini can send, assuming you already have Engine. Because there are times you already have Smiger. You already have access to your Sulfefnir. You already have access to your Inclusion. So in this case, then you can send your Enchantress. An Enchantress equates to an Omni and a bounce. Pretty damn good going second because you force interaction. And I feel like that's what the deck was missing. And that's why I decided to go with this engine alongside the Crystron engine because they're interchangeable. You initiate your combo with this because you want to ensure that this resolves, right? So you initiate with this, activate right, it'll give you access to your bounce and your Omni. So they're going to have to interact with this engine first. And you're only contributing one card to this. And if it does resolve, then it's even better for you because it allows you to set up your plays and insulate them and sequence them in a way you feel is necessary. With that in mind, it just felt like the obvious way to play the deck. There are other variants, they're good as well. The fact that this has so much synergy, this just makes a lot more sense. Yeah, you're adding like the bricks, but I think the payoff is just insane. Something you can do against Lancea, not necessarily if they shotgun it and you have this, of course you don't play around Lancea. You would need to see your right. Because at the very least you get an Omni and you might have non-engine hand traps, droplet, you might have access to tactics to look at their hand. But the cool thing about adding this engine into the deck is you can out-clever your opponent in a way where they can assume that you might need a particular resource to resolve. For example, let's say you have this and you have this already. You don't want this to be redundant. So okay, you still push for the Cherubini line. You summon, add, link, go into dump Enchantress, effective Enchantress. They ask you there because they're scared of you getting an Omni setup. That's fine because you already have right, or vice versa. Like let's say you dump this, but you already have Inclusion. You still go for this because you already have this anyway. Activate effect, dump, search for this. You have it anyway, that's fine. So it's a form of being a bit deceptive and what you can dump. They're going to have to ask you at one point because once you get to Imperm means that you're going to insulate your Crystron names with an Omni. You're basically insulating something to establish an attrition style game plan. Assuming they interact prematurely, that's where you get the most benefit from these cards. They're not completely certain that interacting here might do it, but you present an illusion that, okay, yeah, he needs this. That's why he's doing this route. The fact that they're interchangeable is why it's so cool. Because you can be like, okay, well, I need something else to resolve, so I'll do the other, and vice versa. I'm so used to people starting off with Tristaros, like normal summoning, and then activating Inclusion and then trying to play, keep them oppressed under the Tristaros effect. Because no matter what, if they ask you here, this will get you to your Sulfefnir anyways, right? And then that way it goes to the graveyard, you make a dragster, and then you can go effective this, pop this, summon this, try to play after that, right? Because at that point you have access to the dragster, it stops another imprint possibly, and then you go Inclusion, banish, revive this, and go for your Alesk, and then you pop off from there. So then you already have a pre-established dragster with your standard board, with Infinity, your trap. But I feel like in this version, you don't necessarily need to do that because the access of Enchantress, this is essentially equating to something similar to that. Because this is insulating this, which would be insulating this in a roundabout way. And the cool thing about the adventure engine as well is that you can discard these and preserve your normal, which is something that's very important, which is why you can possibly max this out as well. Having a card combination of these two is insane because that means it doesn't really matter if they have Ash. Like what are they going to Ash? They can Ash the float effect, but then you can just search this anyway. So they're gonna have to let this resolve, and then this can summon this, and then this can search this. And if they interact with that, then you chain this and you get to this anyways. So like just having that roundabout way makes it so the deck flows flows in a way where inevitable in a sense. And that's the cool thing about having this variant, is being able to play in a matter of deception. You on purpose like send this, or you already have that, okay, it's fine. That's generally the way this deck is meant to function. And then there's some pretty cool things you can do, because I know some of you are still kind of like not really on board with it, but the ones that are and that have tested it, you'll see that it's pretty insane. And some of the questions I've been having as well is like, oh, what do you do versus Detonator? Like, how does the adventure engine deal with Detonator? Because of course, like, yeah, if you're going just the right versus one single Detonator, because it can be a bit problematic. But it already baits a few interactions on its own, right? So you can activate it, place fateful. So they're going to interact there. They're going to pop that, either pop the token, whichever way. You're still baiting interaction there. So that within itself. But you need a bit of help as well. The cool thing about Cherubini is that they can protect your guys from being destroyed, which is really cool. So like, let's say you make Cherubini, right? They don't answer you there. You dump with that first, and whether they pop it there or not, it'll vary. Some people interact in different ways. But this can then dump your enchantress, right? You dump your enchantress, and then you activate enchantress, get access to your right? And then now, at this point, they're going to be considering popping Cherubini now, because now they're going to read, okay, if they don't pop this, then that means this is going to be able to place your fateful, and then you're going to get a token placed in a zone where it can be destroyed. So that's where it's pretty cool as well. And then you can try to play off of that. But for the most part, going second, you're kind of banking on your droplets, your tactics, imperm, right? Because the cool thing about this is this can bait their Detonator. They can't be like holding on, oh, they gotta hold on. No, they're gonna have to respond to not allow you to get to your bounds, not allow you to get to your Omni, because you can put Gryphon here. But that's one of the issues with this, is what I'm saying is they're gonna want to pop your Gryphon when they try to negate. But if you place Gryphon here and you keep them, they're protected, right? And like I mentioned earlier, it'll vary whether they interacted with this guy or not. It'll vary, it depends, right? And then you try to play, and then if they try to go Detonator pop, you just negate, it can't be destroyed. So like, that's the cool thing about this setup. And then you try to play, but for the most part, you're going to be hoping to draw into any of these, right? So this paired with like your engine, I think it should be fine. And some of the cool things you can do with this as well is sometimes you do open multiple enchantress, which has occurred. and you can end up going for like Cherubini lines and getting access to, like, you can go activate this, place this, you get access to your token, right? And then you can special this, right? And then this, instead of searching your Gryphon, it can search you another enchantress. And this is what I was talking about being deceptive, right? Because you can just summon this and make it seem like you need that Cherubini search, right? So then you go Cherubini, go into this, you dump this, and it makes it seem like you're actually desperate. And then you go effect, and they ask you there. But you might already have access to inclusion. You might already have Sulfefnir. It's deceptive. And that's what I really like about this deck, this variant. And it's a lot of fun. You can mess around with different things, and it makes Fool's Barrier even more insane, because it becomes a power spell, because this can be either an Omni or Engine, which is before it's just Engine, you know? I don't know, you have to try it yourself. Just give it a shot, give it a try, and then let me know how you go. But for sure, this variant, don't be scared to go above 40. I've been testing it all week, and it's been doing pretty well. Tidal is another card as well that makes a lot of sense in this variant, because it's essentially another Tear Top. Discarding Tidal with any water, the same thing. If you're missing Enchantress, you dump Enchantress. If you're missing Engine, you dump Engine. Pretty cool. And it's Ash bait. Ash is only once per turn. They're only going to be able to Ash one thing before you get to where you want to go. Because Imperm is not much of an issue for this deck, depending on your hand, of course, but for the most part, what I noticed is that Imperm is not much of an issue. Ash is the one that kind of is a bit devastating. So like, if you have a lot of Ashable things, they're gonna have to take their pick, and if they miss, you're just gonna capitalize. And there's like so many things that you can discard as well. Like, there's so many things you can discard. Like, discard this, you can chain the right, you can discard enchantress. Like, droplets seems so free in this build. It just seems so free. Being able to pitch this off enchantress and then threaten with the adventure engine, wild. That's wild. One of the biggest differences from this variant and the pure ones or any of the other ones, you have to play Coral. You place this, right? You get a token. Coral comes up a lot. When I first played the deck, I noticed that it struggles into breaking boards. You can't really like crack boards as much as you would like. I came across the Coral Dragon. You do your regular playing, right? Because of the way that this deck can function by discarding a card. And if you hard open, whether it's the Sulfefnir, it's the Sulfador, it's the Inclusion, the Smiger, the Thystvern, you can like just add right away, because typically you want to summon something to get access to your Draco back, to then pitch the Draco back to not go minus, but you don't really go minus because you don't mind these cards being in the graveyard, which is really good. So what you can do here is you can like search right away, discard any card if you wanted to. I mean, you could do it the other way around where you summon the Tristaros and then sync, but you kind of want to not give as much insight into your hand as possible. So let's say you have any, it doesn't matter, any Crystron. Let's say you have this, you discard these, it doesn't matter which one it is, right? And then you search for your Gryphon, so pitch this, and then now you can special this here. Just keep that in mind. This is going to the board, go in second. And then right here, you threaten an enemy, and then now you can equip, you can bounce something, they try to negate, you negate with this, and then now you contribute your Tristaros, and then you go into a 6, you go into Coral, whether you pitch this, which is why I was mentioning earlier that you possibly max this out. You can banish this, add your smiger, and you can go effect of Coral, pitch a card, pop a card. Already with just those 2 cards, you're able to disrupt the board, which is something the deck was missing or lacking. And then now that you have, and you disrupted the board, you balance, you negated, you pop, you can possibly go Tristaros effect, pop this will get banished. You then summon your Sulfefnir and your Tristaros. So then now you can chain block. So you go chain 1, chain 2, you draw a random card, it doesn't matter what it is. And then now you can dump other things depending on whatever it is that you're missing. But I felt like this little sequence was coming up a lot because I had trouble trying to push past board, because like if you don't, if you take these out of the equation, if you don't play these, right, the adventure stuff, like your next move would be probably SP. You have to be really careful because otherwise you can't get the resources required to get enough materials to make the SP and then make your Alask as well. So that's where I was having trouble, like, okay, well, how do I do that? Because like if they let your entire sequence resolve, right, and you're not forcing anything, you're not baiting anything, you're not prompting any responses, if they let all this resolve, you can get to a point where, okay, I can make a Crying Gandric. But if you didn't prompt any responses, it's just gonna get stopped. Same thing with Infinity. If you didn't do any of this, any force, any pop or anything, then okay, you don't summon this guy, you summon a 5, right? This guy. Assuming you don't do this line, right? You do your regular play where you go for your Alask, right? Like this is not gonna threaten anything. The more people become aware of the deck and how the deck functions, like they know that this doesn't do anything. It just adds back something, recurrent resources, but it's not really threatening anything. So what's your end goal here? Like, okay, now we're here. Like, what are we doing here? Right, okay, now we can go into an Infinity maybe, right? Into a board, do this, okay. Yeah, one Omni into a board, what are we doing here? I caught myself in that situation a lot, and I was like, okay, well, instead of doing this, we summon 2, you do this, and you do this. Keep in mind, we haven't baited anything. This is just us sequencing out our turn, assuming that it will all resolve. Okay, you have 1, yeah. And I had so much trouble understanding, like, how the hell am I going to do that? And that's where I came across the adventure engine. I was like, okay, yeah, it just makes much more sense to play it. Once you start getting into more complex sequencing, you implement these guys, which is really nice. Because I think this guy shines a lot more in this variant because you are kind of locked by the normal summon. So sometimes you do open this and you want to dump this off of the Sulfefnir, right? You go Sulfefnir, dump this and this, right? Assuming you already have Sulfefnir. It'll vary on your hand, but I'm just saying, like, there are situations where you do this, right? This will add you to your Trist, and then the turtle banishes itself, special this, and now you're here, type of thing. You could do the same thing you just did now, or just have them loaded and keep them oppressed in the same way that you would with like the pure variant, where you just normal summon it and try to play. This little guy puts so much work in his variant as well, because like being able to just discard him off of the fateful effect, being able to add back off of a less, because if you saw some of the gameplay that I showed you guys already, being able to add back a 5 and then activating the effect and then special summoning the 5 you added, right, is huge. Sometimes you need that much more damage to go for game. Adding those little deviations to the deck helped, in my opinion. It just felt like it was missing that, like it was lacking something. Some of the cool things you can do with the Coral line is you can climb into the Vermilion, because I know some of you are on the Navy Dragon mech, which I was too at first, but I wanted more spot removal, right? A cool thing you can do here as well is if you do everything that I just showed you, right? Like the whole right into Trist, and then you pop something, right? And then when you can go for the foolish of this guy, right? Or if you have access to him, you can just banish that, right? Banish this, and then special one of your non-tuner level 3s, whether it be Smiger or Thystvern, and then you can pop again. So you can synchro here and go into this, and then you draw a card. I showed you guys on stream where you can just banish a hand trap, pop a card, and then you can go Trist effect, pop this, summon 2, whether it be Infinity, right? And then this will add back your Ash, or whatever, like a Veiler, Ogre, Bell, or something like that. And then you can go Infinity after you disrupted the entire board. I felt like if you can't do that, like, it just seems like you're incapable of playing through a board. And the more they accumulate their responses towards the end of your sequence or towards the end of your combo, it's just gonna get stopped. You want to be able to force things. And I feel like that's what this variant does. And compared to the cast version and the Azamina version. Those are good engines as well. But I feel like this bridges so well. Because if you look at the Azamina cards, right? They're essentially doing what this is doing, but without the synergy. Because like this can give you access to this. Whereas if you play the Azamina package, this does not give you access to Azamina. Or the cast cards. The cast cards are meant to give you access to Cherubini in a way where you go for Dracosack, and then Dracosack gives you tokens, and then you go Cherubini, then Cherubini gives you access to engine, right? But it's not the same because it's way more devastating if they stop your Dracosack, the impermit. It requires you to have multiple cards to facilitate that combo. Not saying that it isn't good. The way you would do it would be Cash and Witch. So those already bait interactions already, right? Because then you go Witch, effect, discard, set your Deception. Deception threatens an Omni within itself. Like it works. Like I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm just saying that the bridge is what I really like about this variant. Being able to have access to an Omni or your engine. But yeah, that's a bit of insight into the deck. If you were kind of curious on how it plays. There's a bunch of gameplay though. Go ahead and watch those matches. Check the live streams. I've been showcasing the list all week. And it's a lot of fun for sure. It's a lot of fun. I feel like being able to play the Azamina engine in this variant too, you could do it, but cash cards are kind of they do not go well with this. I mean, you can risk it and play cash cards and this too, but oh my god, just seeing them both would just be a nightmare. But like, I guess as Azamina cards, you could have that as another form of engine to like, or force interactions and try to threaten an Omni, right? You can do it that way too, and that's basically it. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe if you haven't, and thanks for watching.